My name is Alex. I'm one of the founders of a place called Circuit Launch, which is the place that we're in right now. And Circuit Launch started as a co-working space for robotics. We started back in 2017, and we have grown to what we call today co-factoring, which is a shared manufacturing space. It's a place where you're going to go to build your prototype and maybe like your first 1,000 pieces. We have about 80 companies here today, all startups between like 1 and 4 founders. Collectively, they have raised over $180 million within the last 36 months. It has been an amazing experience experiencing many companies who always start with one little table and grow to over 100 people. Circle Launch is a great place until you have about 15 people. And then when you get to that phase, then you're probably going to want to look for your own space. We're primarily focused on mechatronics, mechanic, electrical, electronics, engineering, and robotics is a subset of that one. For me, it's been an honor. If I didn't make money doing this, I'll probably pay for it because I just love it so much. I'm surrounded by people that know so much more than I do, and then I get to learn every single day. On the process of building Circuit Launch, something else happened, which is a lot of people came asking us, where do I go to learn about robots, and then where do I go to learn about building these things? We realized that there was a difference. There was a change in the market. So today's age, it does not make too much sense for you to go to a 4 to 5 year college and get out of there with a $200,000 debt, which happens a lot in North America. In a world where you can learn almost anything that you want in a YouTube video, in 15 minutes, they can watch at double the speed. Going to college for 4 or 5 years, it's not making too much sense. It's too slow, it's too expensive. So we start playing with the idea of creating an alternative to a college degree. So we spin off a company called Mac Labs. And this company, what we try to do is we're trying to bring the college education to a more condensed schedule for a type of student that we believe is a modern student, that it does not have instructors, it does not have theory, at least not at first, and you don't have textbooks. You learn almost everything they do by building things, by building projects. And as you build these things, you navigate through this ocean of different projects with different degrees of difficulty. And as you build them, you create this portfolio that you put inside of clusters of knowledge that we hope that eventually will be equivalent to a mechatronic engineering program. Our goal is that within 10 years, we'll be a viable competitor to a college.
So it is one of direction you work on. So we can say that you try to predict how world will change and the education system will need to be changed. So you are making like alternative, yeah?
Not predicting. I'm based on what we've seen.
What you see
what we've seen. It's not like I'm not trying to predict all. I think there's some guessing here because the trends of the market, but it's not like just that I woke up one day and said, wow, I think that's how the world's going to look like in the future. It's trends. It just, today, the new generation right now, you're talking about your son earlier, right? Your son is part of the smallest generation that ever existed. Is the smallest workforce that ever existed. That generation is different. That generation does not care about a lot of things that we cared.
Yes, and they don't know a lot of things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That generation will do things differently. And then just by looking at how this current one has changed behavior, you can kind of model and say, wow, that will be a much different place for those people.
I used word predict because I also think about this because I face now the problem, for example, about because of situation in my country, we had to travel a lot, and I face the problem about schools also. So it's very difficult and heavy system. Like you come to another country, you find schools, and you enter these schools, and about this connection of documentary. And I'm also thinking that educational system might to be changed and be more flexible, more fast than it was before. But what I face that our system, government system, might accept it because you can't just get education, but you also need to have this all diplomas, everything like that. It's why I say predict, because system is not ready yet for this. Well, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, just take an example of what happened with the software industry. So let's go back to 2005, 2004. At that time, companies were fighting to get people who came out of Stanford and Berkeley. Now they are giving like $100,000 bonus just for you to start. Like just, hey, you just finished college, I'll give you $100,000 bonus to come work for my company. Then you had Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, all these companies fighting for these people. So it comes about, I think this was 2008 or 2009, a company called General Assembly came up on the market with this idea of building a boot camp. So the claim was, Well, we can teach you how to code in 6 months. You don't need to go to 4 or 5 year college, because at that point, that was the only method you go. If you really become a good coder, and to get a job, the general understanding is that you have to go to college. What happened was, at some point around 2012, 2011, companies start hiring people from the boot camps, because they said, well, we cannot find people in the market, so we need to get from the boot camps. And then eventually they realized that those people that are coming from the boot camps had the same ability that the people that are paying $100,000 bonus to get started from where they're fighting for the universities. Market decided that the degree was not necessary. So the market said, you know what?
We need
There's no
knowledge,
difference.
not.
Yeah, there's no difference. Today, half of the people working in the industry comes from boot camps.
Also, they don't have official government. So you create like alternative education.
Correct.
It's intelligent. We were testing this also a few years ago. If it's possible to create alternative system and not to fight with existing system.
Yeah. So the government, United States, for example, the government is waking up to this. I'd say there's over 15 states today that do not require a degree for you to work for the government.
Wow.
And before, because you have to understand, the government doesn't know how to hire any other way other than someone has to have vetted you, right? So someone else has to vetted you, like a university or some sort of certification. The government said, no, you don't need anymore. Over 15 states also don't need, in not all the areas, but in a lot of the areas.
So if we see this already like existing case, I got insight now that maybe this is a question of some kind of to be brave to decide to do this. Yes, because some people will still be afraid to go alternative education because they will be afraid that they will stay nowhere after that.
Right.
But some people who risk, and we see already successful cases.
Yeah, well, the difference is here. I think the main difference is that I don't need to do this for 4 or 5 years to try it out to see if it works or not. Like in our case, for example, nothing lasts more than 12 weeks.
Wow.
So in 12 weeks, and you're not going to become a mechatronic engineer in 12 weeks,
of course.
But you can get a lot of information that will give you pieces of this puzzle. Talking about puzzles early.
Yeah.
You get the piece of the puzzle that maybe this is the area that you want to work on. And then you try to work on the area. And as you try to find a job in that one area, maybe say, no, I need to learn more of this because the job requires more of this. And then you go back and then learn a little bit more of the other area until you find exactly where you want to go. This allows you maximum flexibility. So even let's assume that you want to take a risk, I'll say it's a 12-week risk. It's like a very short risk for you to try it out, these different things.
I remember from my education also, I was always really angry with the systems that why we don't have a lot of practice. We just theory, but you can't use it in practice. But when you do in practice, you learn much faster.
It's expensive. And in certain areas, there's not that many places for you to practice. For example, if you want to become a doctor, what are you going to practice?
Okay.
Real people. There's only that many places that you can do this.
So it again brings us to action. You need to act, you need to try, you need to risk. It's a trend of our time, I think.
I believe
okay.
that
let's talk about believe. It's okay. Your opinion, yeah.
That the universities in 20 to 30 years from now will be for those people that couldn't do any other way. It's most like, well, you had to go to college to learn this.
That's so it will change.
That's how I feel like it. Unless if you manage to go to like maybe the top 30 universities, because it's not about the education anymore, it's about the network. And then there is some value in you being part of an elite network. Let's call it elite for now, but a select network.
Guys, he's from Brazil. He is very emotional, so he feels life like Ukrainian. So I understand why he's so alive. Okay, so and about this place, did I understand right? It's some kind of co-working, like people come with idea, you give them space, they can create, of course they have access to each other, they can ask questions if they communicate, and they invent something, yes? And after that, you can help them or them by themselves find how to use their inventions after that.
We are not an accelerator and we are not an incubator.
Understand.
We offer infrastructure only. So we offer the infrastructure for you who is starting out in robotics on some area of mechatronics to build your company. So you don't have to buy expensive machinery. Like you don't have to buy lasers. You don't have to buy, maybe
you can
like
use it here. You have it.
Yeah, everything. As long as you have a membership.
So it's like creative space where you just support inventors. Yes.
Correct. And special entrepreneurs, inventor entrepreneurs, people who actually want to
Uh-huh.
commercialize your product. We
And
do help. I mean, I make introductions to investors currently because that's another value of being a
but it's
place
not
like
like
this, the community.
obligation. You just can recommend
It's just
or
it's
connect
a
with.
personal will to
If you
help the
like it, if
community.
you really like it, yes.
Yeah,
Or
I help as much as I can. It's just like today, at the beginning, I knew all the companies. Now I don't know most of the companies, and it's hard for you to do recommendations when you don't know exactly working on it. But we figured out a way. We offer similar value that an incubator would, but without getting equity from your company and without formalizing it in that way.
accelerator guys who don't know, because just people who come to Wallis, accelerators are like an organization that supports startups and finds funds to make this startup alive.
Yeah. Well, the main difference also is they invest money. So an accelerator usually, if you, not all of them, but let's
If
call it like the most popular of them, which is Y Combinator. So if you're
yeah,
gonna go to Y Combinator and then they'll give you money. I think today is like 500K or 300K. They they give you $300,000 in exchange for equity of your company.
yeah.
And incubator usually provides all the service, like they provide business service. They provide a lot of ancillary services for the company, which by just proximity we do, but it's not something that's hey, this we're our main goal is to provide infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's go to the topic of robots. But you really impressed me. Can you tell about robots, because you live in it? It's your reality. But
Really.
most of people who watch, for example, my YouTube, they don't know what you see, how you see life. Can you explain
Of
about
course.
robots a
Yeah.
little more?
Well, first let's define what it is.
Yeah.
So a lot of people tend to see robots like those things that you see on TV with a Terminator type of thing, but the
And
word
something dangerous.
right.
Something dangerous.
Yeah. So the word robot means I think actually it's Slavic robota. It means slavery. It means forced labor.
Ah, in Russian we have rab,
Rab. Okay.
rab
Yeah,
slave,
yeah.
yeah. But robot, it's like more, I think, that who is working.
Right. So the origin of the word is robota, which means forced labor.
Forced
So
labor.
slavery. So anything they can make your slave, as long as it's not a human, is a robot. I usually give the example of in Thailand they have these monkeys that they use to go up in the trees to pick up the coconut and drop on the floor. And the only purpose of the existence of the animal is to do this. The animal is a robot. So, and then when you talk about them, usually we divide them in different categories. I think the most three popular of them is a humanoid, an android, cyborg. So it's like a cyborg,
Cyber.
android, and humanoid. So
Mhm.
those three ones. So then a cyborg is a human who really wants to become a robot. A android is a robot who really wants to become a human, and a humanoid is any machine that execute a task similar to the way that we do it. So it does not need to have like look like us. It doesn't need to have a head,
Like
but
yeah.
but if, for example, it does an activity using something that looks like arms, and then we call a humanoid, and then that comes in many shapes, and that's probably the most popular that people see today, and those are the ones that people get scared the most because it's taking your jobs, something like that. So a cyborg, for example, wants to enhance your biology by using technology. And in many ways, we have become one already. So you have a cell phone. I have a cell phone. I think most people come here and then they have a cell phone. And the point with the cell phone is that we're no longer just the cell phone is just not it's not an accessory. Is a mean for you to survive. Is how you find the location to get here. That's how you get transportation. That's
How
how you
we
get
can
food.
connect it.
How you can connect. So it's not only now just an accessory that you can afford to use once in a while. Now you can afford not to use it. We have already become a society that we cannot evolve or continue to evolve without the cell phone. We have become cyborgs already. The fact that it's not inside of our body does not matter. We depend on the technology. I was speaking to a professor from a university the other day, and he classified this as we were sapiens, and now we're called Techno-Sapiens. That is our race, and that's a race, and that's a race that we're involved right now. There's no way out of this because if you remove the cell phone, and then you can't compete.
Yeah.
In Android, on the other hand, it's you wanted to make it human as possible. So the whole idea of the Android is that you are going to look more and more like a human. The whole idea is that eventually I'm not going to be able to tell the difference between a robot and a human. And that's the goal. So when you see Westworld that I usually
Yeah,
mention, like
Westworld.
Westworld,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So the whole idea of like, if I not can tell the difference, then that's a robot. The emotions are important. How it feels important. In a humanoid, it does not need to be any of those things. It can be just something that executes. That's used a lot in factories, a lot of in to do work. We are now in search of what we call the GPR, which is general purpose robot. Looking to manufacturing automation, if you look at a machine that can do, us humans, we're not very good at doing the same thing over and over and over.
And we can make mistakes. We can be emotional.
Sure, but when you look at a machine, for example, that just open like the can or just tie the can, the top of a bottle, for example, the machine, we cannot compete with the machine at all. But the problem is, if I wanted the machine to do something else, then I have to build another machine. They're not very adaptable. We, as we know right now, we grew to the world that we're in right now. So we evolved to be in this world. That means that we got legs, we got to go up and down terrains or stairs. We need these two hands with the fingers to actually grab different things. So the world, we adapt to the world they're in. So it is probably beneficial if you can create a type of machine that can operate in the world they're in right now. So having legs is very important. Having arms is very important because they can work the jobs that we do. So this search for the GPR, for the general purpose robot, is that we're in a race right now. When you see all these companies that raise a bunch of money, they're trying to do that. They're trying to replace everything that we do. And this has a lot to do with because of AI. If you look back into, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, if you build in a robotics company, if you build a humanoid, for example, you not only you building the machine, but you're also building the software. The problem is, so we learn, building those things is very, very, very difficult. One interesting thing about building humanoids or androids is that we're trying to replicate what we do. And in the process of replicating what we do, we're learning how we do things, because you learn how humans do certain things.
So you, like a microscope, you look the actions, the decisions, how people do.
Because
so
we
you
learn.
can repeat it.
But doing that process using AI is very expensive. Like, in most companies did not do a good job. Usually they do it by, they call artificial intelligence, but it was not really, well, some people are going to argue with me on this, but it was not really that intelligent. It was pretty much like there's a base of knowledge and there's a bunch of decision trees that people get that speak on those things. And that's what it was. Fast forward to 3 years ago, we realized that we need over 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion to make this thing work. And we're now back to the 80s or the 70s, where we have my 3 or 4 companies building the operating system, and you have most of us building the hardware. What this works now is because I can focus just only on the machine, and I have already software that work, like our brain. What it makes us like operate and talk about how we do it, this company's already doing that. They're taking care of all that part. It doesn't cost me all that money to do it, and these are already effective enough. So I can work just on the machine. Because we are in search right now to have something that does not need to do something extremely well, just has to be good enough.
Good enough for us, yeah.
Good enough for us, which, like humans, we're good enough. And that's the place we're in right now. And as I say, maybe like almost every single day, I was speaking to you today, I have a group, another coming in a little bit, this problem will be solved. I believe that we're coming to the conclusion that we're not that as special as we thought would be. And this comes up with the process of figuring out where we are, which is really interesting. I think we're in an age right now, we're in an era where we are going to learn a lot about what conscious means, what these things that we've been calling for a long time, what love is, what makes you a human. Yes. That things will be hacked. I truly believe that thing will be hacked, because I don't need to feel the stuff that you and I feel. A machine does not need to do that. I just need to be able to identify and to reply to you as if I felt it. Because I'm talking to you right now, we're close to each other, I can see you, but at least I can believe my eyes, I can see you, but you don't know what I'm feeling. For all intent and purpose, that guy maybe hate me. You don't know. But I can use, or maybe like, oh, that person really likes me. Like we have a very good idea that if I like someone, I have to be nice to that person. Right?
Yeah.
And there's some norms. Okay, if I'm talking poorly about you, probably not going to help me to have a relationship with anybody. So I learned that even if I don't like something, it's to my own benefit to say things that will make you feel good. Now, you don't know how I feel it.
And then you don't know why you say it. Right. You just say it.
Right. And because I know it works.
Yeah.
computers are really good at doing this. Machines are really good at doing this. And the point is that people saying, well, but there never be humans because they cannot feel stuff. They don't need to. All they need to do is understand how you do it, and then to make you believe that I do it.
Most of people do the same, manipulating or something
Sure,
like that.
yeah.
They just say what
Politics
they want
is a
to
lot of
see.
that, and
Politics
yeah.
do it. So robots will will take this place. But can you tell me about what you shared with us about this loneliness, and that the robots also will take place of a lot of human needs, like.
Yeah, I get a lot of hit from the conversation, but I'm trying to
Let's talk it, because people
course.
need to understand, and then I want to understand your point, how you see it to be
Right.
human in this case.
We are a very lonely generation. We have a record number of men who never had a relationship in their lifetime. We have a record number of men up to 30 years old that don't have a friend, or they never had a relationship, intimate relationship in their life. In 6 years, there's a report that came out that says that in North America, 45% of all women between the age of 25 years old and 44 will be single with no kids. That's almost half. Almost half of all females available in the market are not going to be in the market for a partner.
Why? What's this scientist?
So there's a lot of reasons. I don't think people kind of know what it is, but this is my opinion. I think technology and the cell phone helps a lot with that. I think easiest access to sex also did, like porn websites and free sex and all that. I think that helped a lot, because dealing with another human is a very difficult thing. And evolution does not favor the smartest, or does not favor the strongest. It favors those who can adapt, and generally follows the path of least resistance. The decisions are done by evolution. Some of them are like questions like why this was not a very good decision, but it was the path of least resistance at that moment. I don't believe the path of least resistance for humans is to talk to other humans. I think we're complicated people. As we go into the world where we can get the rewards, because before we get a lot of rewards from the relationship, which is like, I met someone, and then maybe I wanted to have kids, maybe I want to have a family or something like that. I think people don't want that anymore. And then
because it complicates their life.
Well, just look at this. There's a website that's called Psyhex. It's a podcast that I watch about psychology and things. And then the psychologist, he claims that one of the consequence of us equalizing men and women is that these are his words, as men and women have different interests, and when it comes down to partners. So, for example, men are willing to date someone who is less rich than they are, or it's poorer than they are, is shorter, it's not in the same social status. Men are okay in doing that because men are looking for different things. Women usually want to date someone who actually are equal or better than them. So you want to date someone who's usually your height or higher than you, or stronger than, or same or stronger than you, makes as much money or more than you. And as women came into the society now, for example, more women go to college than men, for example. As we equalize that, normalize the whole situation, the number of men that women are interested became very small, because now you make much more money. And now your choices are different, because like, why I'm gonna be partnering with someone who
not equal to me,
or why? And that's a good reason not to do it. Like, I don't want to do it, and then that's the point. However, there's consequences to that approach, and I'm not saying those things are bad or good. I'm just observing what happens. The consequence is that you have less people interested in getting together. So you're figuring out different things, like you want to go work in your life, you want to travel, you want to have kids, because why? They can interfere with your work. And then usually the women, they take the biological toll of reproduction. You take the hardest hit of that one, and you're like, wow, what am I going to do this for? No, I'll wait 30 or 40. How many I don't want to have anymore? And that's just the world change.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not exactly sure of all the reasons, but it just did. The numbers are there, and we are going to have the smallest generation that have existed. The boomers were the highest, the largest, and then now we have the smaller generation, and we have people who lives to be much older. And these people who live much older have not learned what it means to be lonely, because you are supposed not to live for that long. You're supposed to be old for a period of time and then die. You're not supposed to stay like 70, 80, 100. And then you know what's the interesting point? Like most, like over 90% of all the people who lives over 110 years old are all females. When you look at the ranking of all the like top like people who are actually 120 or 110 or 115 or so, all females. I think there was like one male.
But females, what do you think? They will need this emotional contact, maybe sexual pleasures, everything like that. So robots also solve this problem, or what? What do you see? Or it will somehow it will change, and we will not need it, or what?
Well, in many ways they do. In many ways they already did. So, for example, men, like, because sex is so easy men is like being visual and all, then porn sites are so available, like free. You can get any time you want. Like, and then once that feeling is out of your system, like you kind of lose interest in doing something else. And females also have so many options right now to actually get pleasure without having to have a person.
But you know, we were talking with our group. We have a few females who are free, single, for example. I'm divorced, and we were talking about this. For example, I can't imagine how I switch off this function and can use, for example, just guy for money or something like that. How to deal with that? To switch off this in head that this is robot or this is I paid to this guy and it's not real.
Well, it's not about the pay, because let's remove,
anyway,
let's remove the pay. Let's just move like, okay, it's available, right?
Okay,
if it's free or not, let's say it's available.
Okay,
it's available.
Even if it doesn't pay, but it's not relationship. You don't have this prolonging.
Right. Just look at the situation right now, and I just want you to think like how this will evolve. Actually, let's look at this. Let's look at the Japan situation. Like the Japanese. Have you been to Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Japan has a very highest. Brazil has the largest Japanese community living outside of Japan.
Really?
The best sushi you're gonna find outside of Japan is in São Paulo.
Wow.
Yeah, they immigrated a long time ago, like to schools. In schools, those are the only like foreigners that we had were the Japanese. That's how we got jiu-jitsu. Because of the Japanese.
Ah, wow.
Yeah.
I want to travel to Brazil more and more.
Yeah, should come. Anytime when I come, let me know. So then Japan has a very interesting availability of entertainment. So they have this whole industry where you can pay just to make your company. Not for sex. Like they're happy to pay just for you to talk to them. There are these places that, you know, we can maybe compare them to like what would be a strip club in the United States. But nobody takes their clothes off. They're there just to talk to you. There's this interesting case that I saw last month. It was interesting. There's this guy who posts an ad. He's a do-nothing man. He does nothing. He only exists. So he put an ad of like, I do nothing. Like you can pay me just to come and make your company, but I don't say anything. I'm just gonna be there sitting with you.
Just sitting with you.
Just with you. And he's making like $70,000 a year just by doing that.
Wow. Like, Blue Ocean.
Yeah.
Blue Ocean.
So it's the do nothing industry. I just exist. We do that with animals too, where we extract affection. We enslave animals to extract affection out of it.
Yeah, to give us this feeling that I'm needed.
And I understand that, like you and I don't feel this way. We grew up in the analog world and followed the entire different, the change from the analog to digital. And I think that probably may not change for us, but just look at the kids. They grew up in a whole different world where being real or not real does not make any difference to them. They're completely happy and getting satisfied by something that's not real, whether it's your Roblox homes that you have, like
I fight with Roblox. Money. With my son, I fight with Roblox. I said, no Roblox, okay, Minecraft, okay, but no Roblox. Right. Because they kill, you know, there is a lot of cruelty there.
So we are figuring out ways to satisfy that feeling. And then you're just thinking right now, because, okay, now I can tell the difference. I just want to follow the evolution of this, which I believe is the evolution of this, which is, okay, now we have a bunch of people like falling in love just with ChatGPT, with virtual character from ChatGPT.
Unbearable. I can't understand it, really. I try, but I can't. How people can...
Because you probably don't understand loneliness. We're meant to be lonely. You probably maybe grew up in a place like Brazil too. Brazilians are very, very social people. We talk to a lot of people. And then we talk to a lot of strangers. That's part of our culture. But that's also changing.
It's like connecting.
And I'm assuming that you probably grew up in that world. But you have to understand it from the point of view of someone who is lonely. Someone who never had a friend. Someone who actually never had a relationship. Someone who actually did not grow up in a very social environment. And this is how we're growing. This is how we're going. Because if we don't reproduce, if we don't have kids, And if we are more now isolated than ever because we can get so much information from your phone, you don't need to go to a different place to do it,
To talk, yeah,
to talk, and then it's a different situation. And those people will figure out different ways to satisfy themselves emotionally. And look at right now, there are people already happy just to have a ChatGPT companion. They're just happy to have that. Now, let's try to put that into something that does not even look like a human, but it can walk. It can do stuff for you. It can actually, grab you a coffee, or it can do something for you. Now, that's a whole different level now. Like kind of dogs. Dogs can't do that, and we're already all in love with dogs or cats. Well, cats probably the worst animal that ever existed. It do nothing. It's there just to exist and to look pretty and for you to do it. But people are still in love with them. So now, let's evolve this a little bit. Let's look at this in 20 years, 30 years, where I put this in a way where actually it walks and do almost everything we do and looks like us. And you know what? It feels like us. And we get to the point where you can't tell the difference, what difference it makes. And that's the point of Westworld that I told your group, that's my favorite scene of all time, which is for those who don't know where Westworld is, it's about this theme park where they have a bunch of androids inside of the park. And inside of that park, you can do anything you want with those androids. Anything that you can do, anything you probably couldn't do in a civilized society. You can kill, you can rape, you can, take a knife and like make them bleed, and they'll bleed exactly like a human.
I recommend to watch this movie.
It's the first season with Anthony Hopkins is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's 3 seasons. It's phenomenal. Really good for you to understand a little bit from the psychological perspective, I think.
Yeah, what is going and finish this?
Yeah,
your favorite scene.
So then this guy is a human, and he's getting ready to get into the park, and that's this female is getting him ready to do it, and she's like, I can do anything for you, anything you want. And he's like, is she real? Or like, it's just not real. And then he asks her, like, are you real? And she answers, if you can't tell the difference, what difference it makes. There's this fantastic movie that I recommend. It's called I forgot. It's a German movie. I love. I'll tell you later. You can tell the audience. It's a German movie about this researcher, this female researcher, and then she decided to be part of this trial, where they make a android specific for her. The android knows everything she likes, and she gets pissed because she does not like the idea of something that was programmed with the things that she liked. This idea of like, this is not real. It's just not real. I know you're not real. Like, you don't feel those things. And then she gets really pissed. But as the movie goes by, she starts to reflect about this. Like, do I really care?
It's what I want to tell you. Yeah, is that I was thinking in the head inside also that our brain has ability, like it doesn't distinguish what is real and what we want to be real. Like when you think about something, after some time, our brain thinks it's the same, like real. And maybe when you begin to communicate with GPT, you think that okay, it's not real. But after some time, something is happening in your mind and you already understand it's your new normal. You live with that, so you can communicate. It's what was really my first surprise when I came to USA. I was with my friend in LA, and she has a boy the same age as my son. And she picked up him from school, and she gives him her phone, and he starts to speak to GPT. And he's asking, how are you? He said, oh, I had a problem at school. And how did you feel about that? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear it. I was listening and I couldn't understand first moment. How is it okay? But then I understood that he came and he feels real. And for him, when he grow up, it will be new normal to talk to GPT. He will not even think about this as a robot. It's not real.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a problem. Like if you're over, I'd say 20 years old, and you grew up in a developing country, which is my case, like Brazil, you grew up in an analog world and you saw the change from analog to digital. This was part of my generation. We should remember the VCRs, and tapes,
fax, phones.
Right. But the younger people don't have any of that. No, they have all this available. We have to go to libraries. Like I have to go to the library to get information. I have to go to a place, look at all the books to try to figure out the answer for what we're looking for. Today, it takes me.
Now you don't even need this. You just ask GPT to give few seconds all information from everywhere, and you get it.
Few seconds. So it's a different generation. And then if we remove the ability, not the ability, but the willingness to reproduce, if you don't want to have kids anymore. Like my father was a family of 13 kids. My mom is 6 or 7. Like I have 2 kids, you have 1, and then I don't want to have any more. Do you want to have more kids?
Yeah, I want.
You don't have kids? How many more?
But after our conversation, I'm thinking about this. If I want girl, but if she will be alone, I don't want.
Right.
And she's, Mom, I get married with a GPT. I don't want this.
Oh, so you go home and then they're like, oh, it'll be interesting. But is it bad? I don't know. It for sure looks bad from the perspective of our generation, but I'm not sure if that's a bad thing. I just don't know. Because it may look bad for us, but does maybe people evolve to do different types of relationships? And then I think maybe one way to think about this is when you look into research about families, for example, kids who have parents at home, like one father, one mom, uh, the research is undeniable on this. Like they did much better in life. They're more stable people. They made more money. They're more successful. Successful. The research is absolutely undeniable. However, evolution does not follow the best path a lot of times. It follows the path of least resistance. And it doesn't matter this whole discussion about how family is good for you and then all that if people don't want to have them anymore. A better conversation, in my opinion, is instead of like trying to push people, you should marry, you should have kids, blah, blah, all that, because that's good because it worked for my generation, it should work for you. I think it's for us to start thinking, okay, if people don't get together, if they don't partner and have kids, what would be an alternative for that? Is one thing that's really important. Like, how do we teach people to keep relationships? To teach them, what a friend means, what it means to care for other people, what it means for people to care for you, what it means to rely on a community when things does not work for you, and what it means for you to help people when does not work for them. And I think maybe we should put a much higher effort on that instead of like just trying to think, okay, let's try to force people into getting married and having kids because that's the best for them.
You mean to teach them how to be human, what they feel, how to connect, how to create a relationship in different ways.
Right.
Yeah?
And then, I'm trying to having a hard time to teach my son what it means to be a friend, like what it means actually to build a friendship. My daughter has a much easier time doing that, and my son has a little bit more time. I think also boys develop like emotional relationships a little bit different. uh, so I'm kind of struck with that. And then it's like you have to be a friend, and it comes first. Like it's not like you have to understand that being a friend is the most important thing that you have in order to have a friend. And then as we grow, especially as you age, because as you age, you get more isolated, how we actually build these communities and how we actually get closer to other in a community as we age. Because I think that's important because you have your only one kid. And then before, like my father, for example, my mom, because they had so many siblings, they have all this support network. That's huge. I probably won't have that because I come from a much smaller family. I'm a family of only three. I only have two, and then I don't have interest to having any other. So I don't have like maybe like as I age that support system, which means for me is like I have to do the best I can to become healthier, as healthy as I can, so I can have a healthier uh, um, age as we age. Also, how I keep in close with people in my community. One of my co-founders, he is 81 years old. He runs 5 miles every single day.
Wow.
He swims every single day. He's one of the smartest people that I know and one of the brightest people that I know. And then one thing I keep trying to figure out, like, what did you do that actually is different? And it's the connection that he kept, the effort that he makes to keep in contact with people, like for his group of people and organizing dinners and get together and gatherings and social gatherings. I think that's probably one of the most important things that he does beyond the exercise that he does. Because I think that's what keeps him excited to, wake up every single day. I don't think my generation did that as good.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid of the younger generation are going to be really poor at that. And that's the problem.
So we can little resume few things. First is AI, robots, everything is coming to our life, and
Can't change that. Yeah,
and we can't change it.
No.
So it's our reality. So we can, resist it. We can deny it. We can hide from this, but
and none of them is useful.
Yeah,
none of them is going to be useful.
Yeah. So it will come to our life, and as we were talking before, it can happen any moment. Like can we predict a little bit what you think about time? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, even like.
Let's do a little bit of futurology.
Yeah.
Futurology. So
Yeah.
for robotics specifically, we have 4 or 5 challenges that are very important right now for us to overcome. One of them is processing power. So processing power we've been expecting for many decades right now that at this year or maybe next year would be having some sort of equipment that process information in a much higher rate than our brain can.
It
And
means
then,
faster speed,
yeah,
yeah?
because our brain is very good in processing information. However, that's not the best quality. It's because we can do this while keeping the temperature in a very low.
But we will find solution, I'm
No,
sure. People will find
it's
solution.
happened to be this year or next year. That's going to happen. The
Okay.
second one is material engineering. And then every time you build a different material, it takes about 15, 20 years.
You mean materials?
Materials. Like, for example, there is like this muscle that they built right now. It's like it's an alloy that you power and then it contracts like our muscle does. But this thing has been in development for 10 years.
But at the same time, Amazon already is using a lot of robots, and they fired about 100,000 people already for a few years. So
Already,
we don't need these materials to integrate.
No. We need like something that lasts at least 6 to 8 hours on a battery and that can carry enough weight. So we need a lot of power.
So this, yeah.
We need education because a lot of people don't know how to work with this.
Third problem.
Yeah,
so second problem doesn't make it slow. It will just improve parallel to.
And then cost.
Yeah.
It's cost less than $20,000.
Okay, and the education of people who can...
Because for 40 years, we demonized the idea of we work in a factory. So if you build these robots, you need people who know this stuff, and then we don't have that many people, and that's all over. Ukraine, in an interesting method, because of the war, you put so much like effort in automation, drones, and all that I think Ukraine actually has a good, interesting position to be a front runner on this category.
Okay,
because you have to train people so fast right now to learn things.
Yeah, if they keep alive.
If they keep alive, correct. Yeah. Well, they need to in order to keep the best chance to keep alive, and that's what they need to do. Those are the things that kind of holding us back. So my
4 or 5.
So we got processing power, we got engineering material, we got price, education, and what's the fifth one that we say? Battery.
Not so critical, so it will.
And you don't need to overcome this all completely. You can just like be step by step. So, for example, my guess is that by the end of 2026, we're going to have this in our homes already. Not everybody's going to have it, but I think we're going to be able to have, like, by the end of 2026, a lot of us will be able to have this doing some useful things in your home.
You know, when I understood it in real, because I heard that Tesla, for example, is developing, but when I saw it personally, that guy switched on from his phone, his Tesla, it unparked, came to him, opens the door, and he sat down. Yeah. I thought, wow. Then I came to San Francisco and I saw these Google cars.
Did you go into one of them?
I didn't go, but I saw it. So I understand it's real because a few years ago we just were discussing car will drive without driver, but it's already happening. So robots will come.
And they're better than us. So, and he's one thing that I want you all who are watching this to understand: we can't compete with these things. They're not just better than us; they're exponentially better than we. We're never going to be able to catch up. So driving is an example, for example, that you see in San Francisco. I just want you to imagine that to be twice better. You don't believe it's going to be at least 100% better?
It will soon. It will be very soon.
So it's already drive better than a human. It has less number of accidents per mile than any other activity as far as driving goes. So I think like by the end of 2026, you're going to start seeing these things in our home. I believe that the election of 2027, so, we have an election 2 weeks from now, nobody's talking about AI. People talking, AI is like in the background. If they're talking about AI, it's like we have to invest in AI as a development of technology. But nobody's talking about AI and how AI is replacing jobs. Because let me remind all of you, I know this is it's a controversial point, but this is where I stand on this. Alex, but AI is not going to replace jobs. AI is just going to enhance the human temporarily. For the next 5 years, that's how it's going to look like. Because I want you people to understand that we cannot compete with these things. We just can't compete. And this is not the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution destroyed a lot of jobs and created a bunch more other jobs, which that's what people claim. Oh, all the revolutions create more jobs and destroyed. However, the new jobs that are being created by AI do not need to be done by humans. And those who do, just temporarily. I think we have about 10 years. 10 years where we have some function over here that makes sense for a human to do it. That's kind of my guess. So the election of 2027 will be decided on this problem. Already this year, and for the 2 years right now, we've been seeing a lot of people being fired because of AI. It's not because they're making less money, because America, United States economy is the best, the entire world. It never been this good. It's just like there's so many jobs available, but companies still firing. It's not like they're having less revenue. They're firing because they don't need the people. Just don't need it. So there's a company called a fintech called Klarna. Klarna helps you if you go to checkout to do like monthly payments. So Klarna fired over 10% of the workforce like 3 months ago. The CEO was the first time that I've seen a CEO being transparent about the reason why they fired the people. And the reason is we don't need them. Because we got to a point right now, we optimize AI to a point where we don't need them. We just don't need these people. We're just as efficient right now, if not more, with AI. And by the way, all the Salesforce accounts that we had, we don't need that anymore. I just want people to have a glimpse of this. The problem here is not technology. Right now, it's just maybe ethics of large companies of firing people to replace by AI because it's bad politics. But these companies will have to do it because they can't compete. A startup company who start up right now does not need that. It's not going to be abided by those ethical terms or whatever. I don't know if it's called ethics, but okay, sure. It's not going to be abided by those rules. A startup is starting right now. It's 100% AI from the beginning. We're going to see lots of companies that makes over $100 million, $200 million in revenue that has less than 10 people. Midjourney has 20 people.
20 people.
20 people.
Amazing.
Midjourney, it's like this whole technology advancement has 20 people.
Wow.
The whole team.
So second part is we need to emphasize though, it is part of our life. So it's like point we need to accept. Even if we don't want, it will come.
Right.
Second is that most of people who watch this video, they are from analog world. And of course, it frightens us like what will happen, what to do. But our kids already grow up in different reality, and as fast as we understand it, maybe we shouldn't resist this reality and to support our kids, yes, because they will live in another world, and for them it will be new normal, not like for us. So we need to accept it and to, how to say it, be flexible and to find how to live in it. It's the biggest challenge for people, because all this emotional stuff, sexual stuff, even you were explaining, you didn't tell it today, but you told us about that robots will also make like a partnership, like they will be friends, like
you mean romantic partnerships? Absolutely.
All romantic
partnerships, no doubt.
Even sex, everything will be
no doubt. Yeah.
replaced. So, and a lot of people will think it's okay for them. So they will not distinguish you are human or you are robot. So, and as you already started to say, how to live in it. It's we need to to find out. I will tell, not remember, find out what is to be human. Yes.
And that's the reason why I feel like it's my main task right now, because I think those things are unavoidable that you mentioned. But we have to figure out what purpose means for us. And we have to kind of have a whole new conversation right now. And this is not something for the future. You have to start this right now. It's a conversation like this right now, today, which is like, okay, if a robot can do everything that I want, and does that mean that I waste most of my life? Yes. It does mean that we waste a lot of time.
In one point, it upset, but in another point, I'm happy because your words make it faster, because it's what I always talk to people, that you want to wake up one morning, you leave, you go to a job, you earn money, you create family, but one moment you can wake up and ask why I'm bored in this life. So this will make it faster. So as much as people will start to ask these questions, yes, what I came here for, what is my purpose of life, why do I feel this, what is creation of love, what is friendship, everything like this, it will support them, yes, what you think.
Right, yeah.
So this guy is technologist, but he is saying about this.
I don't have an answer, and that's what the whole thing, I don't have an answer for this, but I know for sure that we have to talk about it, because we have to figure out a way what it means, all these things that we're talking about, like, what it means to age comfortably and be able to have friends. We have to figure out a way where, how we're going to finding reasons to stay alive. And at this point, a lot of us, the reason for us to wake up every day in the morning is like the work that we do, because we found there's meaning in that word, is the relationships. If all those get replaced by these machines, at least you don't need to be all of those, but some of them do. What does it mean for us? Like, what does it mean? And I'm not in the camp like, we should go fight the machines. I'm not in that, because we won't be able to compete anyway. But I'm just like, okay, for the rest of us who are still human, we should figure out a different way to relate to each other that's not solely based on the work that we do. That is based in a different thing that we can wake up every single day saying, I want to wake up every day because I do want to connect with another human, because that's what's left for us.
It's the only thing.
That's only just left for us. And then I think we need more of that, but not because we can't compete, because we can't, but because we need to survive, and we need to find reasons to keep alive.
So not wasting time on be upset about it, accept it as reality, and to focus on important thing, what is life is. Yesterday I had a conversation with a very interesting guy. He achieved a lot, he's successful, rich, and I asked him also, we had conversation not about AI, but in one conversation he said, I live life to find out what is life. Every day I learn how to live, and I learn it in communication with people. I learn it in new experience, what I feel, what is life is. So you agree that trend is to try to find out what is it.
Absolutely,
yes?
absolutely,
To pay attention on it, and after that is what my experience is that when you live like that, then you can find in this reality what you can do also, yes, because as we have all these progresses in our history, always new professions were born. So if people go on to find out what they come from, they can, maybe it will not work, not job, it will not be job, it will be like what I can put to this world, to give, yes, like to be useful for world, yes.
Agreed.
You can find about it. Okay, thank you so much for
My
this
pleasure.
conversation.
Thank you. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah,
Happy to help in any way I can, because
was
I'm
amazing.
finding out what it means to live. I love that phrase. And then the only way that we can find it out is by doing this, by talking. Best of luck to everyone.
See you in Brazil or in San
or in
Francisco.
Ukraine.
Or in Ukraine, yeah. If you come,
Yeah,
let
I
me
went
know.
last year, so I'll go again. I loved it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.